To be honest.
America is not a real place.
I just came back from a big trip to Tennessee, Georgia, and New Jersey, and the bizarre things I saw for sale at the Kroger grocery store were honestly not the craziest things I observed. We're also gonna need to have a talk about a couple terrifying things I've seen Americans do on the road now that drastically is different than when I lived there, at least.
Not safe. Not safe.
My name is Evan Edinger, and after moving away from the US over 13 years ago, now every visit, I feel like I find something new. These are the 10 weirdest or most interesting things I noticed while recently in the USA. So yeah, let's start off light with the grocery store. America has always been known for pushing the envelope a bit when it comes to weird food products, and if cinnamon dusted bacon is a product that exists there, well, it's because there's a market for it. Similarly, I found churro-flavored sausages, another bizarre choice. America has a huge fixation on cinnamon sugar products, which I honestly do miss a little bit about living in the US. In the UK, we do have cinnamon sugar in a rare product here or there, maybe one box of cereal, but in the US, hey, it's everywhere. I think the bacon and the sausage might be a bit too far, but it is good, right? Cinnamon sugar is very nice. It's just insane the amount of things I noticed while in that shop. Plus, I, for instance, got very envious of the sheer amount of different cheeses that Americans can buy. I spent a long time walking through that Kroger in Nashville, just noticing everything. There's so many interesting things. The size of the store, the amount of things on sale, the diversity of things on sale. It's just overwhelming. As someone who's visiting every once in a while, I'm like, whoa, it's kind of cool. But I don't really think I'd care too much if Britain decided to sell cinnamon sausages or not. I don't think I'd ever buy them. In terms of actual food, America has so many more apples to choose from since when I left. The one issue? Well, how much do you think this apple costs? In the UK, the fanciest apple in most grocery stores is Pink Lady, and those cost just under 50p each, or 60 US cents per apple. This one though, cost me $2.55. That's insane, right? $2.55 an apple? I showed it to my American friend that was with me at the time, and she looked at my receipt and went, "Oh, that's your fault. You went for a Honeycrisp apple." And I was like, "So, what's the difference?" Well, I could tell you the difference. It was expensive, but it was one of the best apples I've ever had in my entire life. Oh my God, America, they got the Honeycrisp, they got the Cosmic Crisp. Biting into that apple, it's like, it's so genuinely crisp and sweet, and it's unlike any other apple I've had in the UK. So sure, it might be incredibly expensive, but whew, that is one nice apple. America might have many more apples to choose from, and they might be expensive, but they sure are tasty. And that's a compliment. But speaking of compliments, one comment I see a lot in more European spaces online is that Americans are so fake nice, like when they ask you how you're doing with a smile or when a server constantly checks in on you. From my experience, both living in the US and especially after this recent visit, I'd say I don't feel like any of that is fake. I just think non-Americans are not used to it. I was honestly surprised by just how often Americans around me would compliment strangers, or strangers would compliment those around me. This is quite a foreign thing to me now that I live in London, but walking into a store, an employee might say to a friend of mine that they really loved their dress or really loved their earrings, and then the two would basically just be really nice to each other back and forth, these two random strangers. I do not experience that sort of interaction most ever in London. Like at all. And another situation was similar. I was sitting down at a diner having some food with a friend, and my friend stopped the waitress to be like, "Hey, I really like your hair." Honestly, it just felt really heartwarming to see so many compliments just being shared with people that don't know each other. It just feels nice because, especially with how our only available spaces online these days funnel us into algorithmically optimized camps to show as much negativity about the other side as possible to sow division and ooh. It was just really nice to see that in real life, Americans are still incredibly friendly to one another, and not in some sort of fake way. It's just another reminder that the online world and the real world can be completely different things. And hey, if you'd like to pay me a compliment, subscribing is always appreciated. Thank you. Do you hear that? Yeah, that's because bugs in America are really, really loud. Not in a bad way, but no matter if I was in the middle of the sticks or even in some built-up suburbs, even in Nashville, a city, you can always hear bugs all around you. As soon as the sun goes down just a little bit, the outdoors features this beautiful concert of different insects chirping away that I just really can't experience in Britain, not at all at the same level, especially not the cicadas. They just add such a natural sound bed to life outside that's just so calming. Even when you're driving in the evening with the windows down, you can hear the sound of bugs all around, just vibing it up. It is one of those things that I never thought I'd miss, but damn, I really miss the sound of bugs. But that is where my positives about bugs end, because Lord above, the bugs in America are so much more aggressive than the bugs in Britain. God, this felt true for the US cities I visited as well as the rural parts. Stand still for a second and I'd be eaten alive by mosquitoes or harassed by a litany of wasps, hornets, or God, the greenheads. Listen, if you've never been to the east coast of the US, sure, you might not know about greenheads, but just imagine a big ass horsefly with a green face. He flies in a swarm and he got big teeth and he bites you and he causes big itchy bumps. It's not nice. Insects in Britain, just like the weather there. Very mild, actually. Whereas in the US, they're just a lot more intense. Actually, one thing that's a lot more intense in America than when I left is thrifting culture. Sure, growing up, we'd pop by the Goodwill store to see if there's any good pre-used items or for a good price, like a charity shop in the UK. Recently, from many groups of people that I talk to in the States, it feels like this is now an entire industry. Many Americans have found a way to make a living by going to various thrift stores and buying things there, and then selling them on their own online shops at higher prices. It's not just about this re-thrift business that I found interesting, but compared to previous visits, I found many Americans that I spoke to across various income brackets frequent different thrift stores, specifically just to find things to buy to feel like they're getting a bargain. Like, oh, I got this, but for a lower price. Here we go. Do you notice anything weird that you might be interested in this photo? It's not for me necessarily, but we checked out 2 junk stores while in Nashville, which are like thrift stores, but with a whole lot more junk. I kind of get the idea with some of the items, like, pots and pans. Sure, that's good. Why not get some pots and pans? Golf club pizza scissors? Or Barbie and Ken bottle openers? It just confuses me a bit as to why there's such a market for junk, reused or not. Removing my bias, it might be viewed like antique shops that I used to visit as a child, where you could get high quality items that last generations. Except now the modern version of that is plastic junk from the 90s that's been reconstituted into now a usable item. My thought is this whole scene is just a natural consequence of increasing inflation and cost of living, and America has a strong culture of consumption. So this, I guess, allows people to buy the things that they really don't need while feeling better about it because they got it for a low price, I guess.
Oh my God.
Could be dumping fuel. I don't know what the fuck the deal is.
Oh, it's going so slowly as well.
Yeah, I think it's dying. I think it's going to crash to earth here.
So here I am, just looking up at the night sky, only to see what looked like a failed rocket launch of a rocket ship crashing and burning back to the Earth's atmosphere, which genuinely was scary. I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
It is literally crashing now, whatever that is. Seen anything like that? It's really...
I guess that's just something you can experience every once in a while when you look up at the night sky in America. Turns out, NASA was doing a test to study the atmosphere 100 kilometers above ground, so sent 3 rockets up, spilling fuel around to study the way that it reacted. That's fun. Other than this, I was going to say, what I do miss the most, which is quite niche, is the sky and the stars. There's just something comforting about the way the sky and stars look where you grew up. Moving halfway across the globe means the night sky can produce a completely different assortment of stars and constellations. Your top favorites are still going to be there, but they're not going to be the same. They're not going to be necessarily in the same position in the sky, and they're not going to be up at the same part of the day, and I don't know, it just feels strange. You won't realize that you'd miss something like that until it's gone. One thing that absolutely I missed was how huge the sky feels where I'm from, and just how pretty the clouds always are. In London, when we get clouds, they're almost always the gray stratus ones that just blanket the city. So I miss the Toy Story clouds above American skies, like the ones I saw while driving through Tennessee.
Oh, look at that pavement. But who's walking there? No one. They will just be long, barren stretches, almost as if sidewalks in the US are like highways. Very disjointed highways, as in they don't connect to lots of things. That was a full kilometer, probably a little bit more, and there was nothing the entire distance. There needs to be things on the way. You know what I mean? There just couldn't have been anything, any sort of, also no shade. It's hot as hell in Tennessee. There we go. Now this is a well-designed sidewalk. Look at that. There's a barrier, there's trees, there's shade. There's nothing to do, sure, because of zoning laws. But otherwise, that looks nice. There's a bike lane. Is that the emergency exit's a bike lane? Oh, hold on.
Would anyone on a bike feel safe on this cycle lane in Tennessee? Probably not. But here's where things take a turn. Every time I visit the States, due to the poor public transportation options, I always have to rent a car. This means every year, I get to experience what the newest tech is that's been placed inside of cars. And honestly, the tech inside even the most economy car models these days feels insanely futuristic to me.
Oh, sweet. This car has all this safety features. Is this too much for you, sir? Nope, he's turning. Oh my God! I'm over the brake. Oh my God, I'm doing nothing. What the hell?
If you have the car in the self-driving cruise control mode, in like a standard Toyota Prius type thing, or even a Toyota Camry, well, it will maintain the speed you set unless a car slows down in front of you or comes into your lane. Then your car naturally brakes for you to maintain a safe distance, and then it just maintains the speed of the car in front of you until it moves out of the way, and then it speeds itself back up to what your speed limit was set to. Insane. There's also modes where it will literally turn the wheel for you to maintain its position in its lane. That being said, as much as I do feel like these self-driving features and all these like doohickeys that tell you if someone's like passing you and stuff like that, those are really nice and increase the safety that I feel in the car. Well, the other things that I've noticed on the road do the complete opposite.
Oh God, it's an old man on his phone. He was dipping in and out of that. Oh my God, he's just driving over the line. Not safe.
One of the biggest things I noticed when driving around in the US that took me completely by surprise is the sheer number of drivers looking at their phones. I'm not just talking about when they're stopped at red lights either. I'm talking about on the motorway, on the freeway, on the highway, on the turnpike. Everyone seems to be just looking at their phones, and it's friggin' terrifying when you notice this type of thing. This is not to say no one in the UK texts while driving, by the way. Every once in a while, I might see someone driving a car while attempting to subtly look at their phones at a stoplight or something, and I have asked multiple British friends if this is a thing over here as well, and they said, oh, every once in a while I see someone looking at their phone, and I'm like, oh shit. But in the US, from my recent experience, it's like a gosh dang epidemic, okay? I was parked out front of the Wawa at one point, just watching cars at a stoplight, and every single time there'd be multiple cars who don't notice that the light has turned green already, and then they step on the gas suddenly when they notice that everyone's starting to beep at them, and then they look up from their phones, and it's just, I cannot believe how often I saw this. At one stoplight, I even noticed a woman in the car next to me had placed her iPhone on her steering wheel and was literally watching YouTube videos while driving. Insane. Mostly because it wasn't one of my videos. Come on. I guess if you were driving, you wouldn't be able to notice the nice color grade details, cause you'd be dead. I literally saw a viral video last week of this girl driving and then just like looking at her phone and then veering off the side and then crashing. And it's like, I saw that and went, oh, that's rare, right? That's a silly, stupid person right there. Holy shit. No, it's the American driving experience. My experience during this trip was mainly across New Jersey, Tennessee, and Georgia though, so I would love to hear from as many Americans as possible if this is as widespread an issue as my recent trip really made me feel. I had a couple comments on my video recently that went accidentally viral called Why Americans Don't Walk to School Anymore, saying I was being too dramatic and walking in the emergency lane that has a bicycle painted on it is more than safe. And I'm just drumming it up for the views. Judging from the fact that in that same video, I captured a car driving needlessly over the bike lane, and from the sheer amount of people I've seen while they're on their phones while driving, I'd say it's more than reasonable to be a bit afraid and not wanting to share the road as a pedestrian with drivers too busy on their phones to notice me walking, especially considering the size of the giant vehicles that these tiny PP men seem to be driving around this fucking country. And phone use while driving. Not even half of it, guys. For the love of God. New Jersey recently legalized weed a couple years ago, and since then, it's gone from the diner state to the dispensary state. Many famous diners that I've gone to a couple times have gone out of business, sadly, but now they're dispensaries to buy weed. A shame they're not like doing the same thing, but also weed, so you could like, I don't know, get some edibles and then get some nice pancakes. Come on, that sounds nice. Legalizing weed? That's cool by me, that makes sense. Places you can buy high quality marijuana products? Hey, that sounds great. But I spent a lot of time on my recent trip on the side of various roads and highways for an upcoming video. In the one place I was standing right here, I was at least a good 5-minute walk away from the nearest pedestrian, as there was a big Walmart parking lot down the road a bit. So the only people here are me and the cars driving by me. And yet the amount of times a car would pass me and I'd get hit in the face with a strong smell of weed is so concerning. With alcohol, you can't necessarily tell if someone has had a drink or two before getting behind the wheel of their car because, well, their erratic behavior could also be from these other things they're doing, like looking at their phones while driving. But with weed, these people are smoking it in their cars while driving, and the smell is overpowering, so it's very obvious that that's what they're doing. For a country that essentially forces its entire populace behind the wheel of a car in order to participate in the basics of society, it is incredibly terrifying that any sane person that is a normal person that just wants to get around has to share the roads with these people. And yet again, this is why I was so upset about the lack of safe footpaths and sidewalks around my hometown in Deptford, New Jersey, because it just really feels like you can't even go for a walk outside without needing to be hyper aware of trying to survive and not getting hit by a car or a giant truck or SUV on the road from someone smoking weed and texting their friends. If you are from another state that has legalized weed and you've not noticed this problem, please sound off. I'd love to hear from you. I have seen in London once a driver that was doing balloons while driving, which is incredibly unhinged and unsafe because balloons are pretty fucking lame in the first place, but doing them while driving, what is wrong with you? Either way, I think I was just genuinely concerned with how often I smelled weed standing on the side of the road, and there is no other place that it could have come from outside of people's driver's side windows. I kind of get it in a way. Like, if I still had to live in America, I feel like I'd be grossly addicted to weed to try and like numb some other things that are going on. But then again, like I said, despite everything, the Americans that I met and talked to are just so incredibly friendly and so incredibly nice. So it's just so interesting that living in this like melting pot of all these awful things going on at the same time, people in America still find a way to be nice to one another. So, I mean, that's nice. And before I wrap this up with my final thoughts in the conclusion, let me just take a quick moment to thank today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace have been sponsoring my channel for a very long time, which is great because, well, they're how I built my website, evanedinger.com. Squarespace is pretty much the best way to build a website of your own with the least amount of hassle. Starting off is easy. You just go through and choose one of your favorite looking templates from the many professional templates that they have available. And then you just start getting edited. If you want a web store, that's easy. You just add a web store page and then start adding your products and there you go. It's that simple. And the site looks great when viewed on desktop or on mobile. Squarespace made it easy for me to not only have a web store, but also a little blog with all the different kit that I have, explaining it in a sort of educational way. I also have a portfolio page with some of my favorite photography that I've taken. And hey, I've got a nice looking landing page to call my own. That's nice. So if you'd like to build a website of your own just like mine, build it with Squarespace by going to squarespace.com/EvanEdinger, and you can get 10% off of a website of your own. So thanks very much to Squarespace for sponsoring. Now, let me wrap this up. Visiting your own hometown, but from more of an outsider's perspective, is a really weird experience, but I feel like it has allowed me to notice things that I never would have noticed before because, well, they'd just be normal to me or not too different from the day before. It might be interesting to make a video responding to your comments on this one if I see anything in particular that stands out, or hey, if I missed anything big. So please do join the conversation below. If you're a fan of the bigger videos I make, like my video on cycling in London or the video where I explore all the hidden rules of Parliament, just know I've got a very large amount of those videos waiting to be edited. I just don't have the time at the moment. I'm at max capacity. So if you are good at editing in DaVinci, well, feel free to shoot me an email to my business email here with some of your work, and maybe you can help me get through this. In the meantime, though, thank you very much for watching this video, for supporting me in any way. I very much appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Goodbye.